Hi everyone, welcome back to this series of UX videos. In today's video, we will look at the interaction design tools, and this is still part of the interaction design, which is another component of the user interface design. So the interaction design tools are basically the tools that we use in order to design the interaction part of the system, and we need these tools in order to conduct a research and to provide some sort of artifacts to the end users so that they can give us feedback on whether we're on the right track, whether we're designing the things that they really want, and so on and so forth. So the tools that we'll look at user empathy maps, user journey maps, storyboards, site maps, and mockups. And in this video specifically, we'll look at the user empathy maps and user journey maps. So first off, user empathy maps. We use user empathy maps because it gives us a sense of who the end users are. We already know who our end users are because we've already conducted the entire initial research that we did a couple of videos ago, but here we get a sense of who our end users are in terms of what do they hear, what do they see, what do they want to say or do, and what is it that they think and feel. And it also includes the pain points as well as the gains that the users currently want to achieve. And if you remember in our personas, the pain points will be the frustrations in our personas, and the gains will be the goals that the users want to achieve. So with the empathy maps, we're trying to understand what is it that makes up all the senses of the end users, and what is it that they actually want to achieve from using our system. And when users are engaging with our system, we need to show them a mock-up, and when we show them a mock-up, we could actually get a sense of that, of like their emotions and how they feel towards the mock-up or towards the system that we are in the process of developing, basically. The user journey maps are also called the customer journey maps, and what they do is they provide a graphical illustration of the individual or of the user's relationship with the system over a period of time, as well as the different tasks that they will need to do when they interact with our system. And the first thing that we would want to do when we create user journey maps is to create a scope. Is it the first time that the users will be interacting with our system, or like is it the first time that will they only need to use our system only once, or will they need to use it all the time? And then we also need to take the user interaction into account. What is their motivation for using the system, for doing this step? And we can start sketching their journey, like start sketching the entire journey as they interact with the system. You need to consider the end users emotional states, basically. That's why we do user empathy maps prior to user journey maps. And the majority of the time, UX designers actually use emojis to show the user's emotional states. And once you've sketched the journey, you validate with the end users, you get feedback, and then you refine your user journey maps based on the feedback that you've received. So we'll just look at an example just now. So here's an example of a user journey map. We have Zoe Johnson, who is a representative of our users. So you'd want to put a short scenario to give a brief background and some of the expectations as to what would the users what would they expect to achieve as they use your system. So we would like to easily find all VET honors admission guidelines and requirements, and subsequently apply for an information systems honors program. So what would she expect to do? She expects that she would understand VET honors admission requirements and apply for IS honors program at VET University. So Zoe is a bit bored. She's wondering where she can access all VET honors admission requirements and apply. So she decided to do her own desktop search, basically. So she browses the internet for hours and hours, She decides to visit the vet's Facebook page, and while she's there, she sees a pinned link on their page, and she follows the pinned link. She's like, oh, this pinned link looks should help. So she gets a bit interested. She navigates to the honors admissions. She chooses the Faculty of CLM, Commerce Law and Management. She reads up on the admission requirements, but while she's reading, she's thinking these requirements aren't so bad. Now, where do I apply? Because she wants to apply for an IS honors program. So she scrolls down to the bottom of the page. She sees an apply button. As she sees an apply button, she's thinking, I hope this application process is not very long. So she realizes that after she clicked the apply button, she realizes that she has input all the details she provided when she was applying for undergraduate studies. So when she came to VETS for the first time, she's inserted all those details. Now she's wondering, but I provided all those details 3 years ago. Now she's like a bit she doesn't really want to do that, but she fills in the first page of the application, and at the bottom of the page, she sees a checkbox where she can just check it to show that she has applied to VETS before. She's like, oh, I can check this box and save myself some time. So she's pretty excited about it and relieved. She chooses the IS honors program, and then she sends through her application. And then after she sends her application, she's thinking, oh, that was not very hard. I'm glad it's done. So Zoe has went through this entire process using your application or your system that you're designing, and she gives you feedback. So at the bottom there, at your user journey map, you'd put opportunities as to how you'd want to improve after you get feedback from Zoe. For example, you'd want to put the apply button at the top right hand of the page and use a color that would grab the user's attention, so they won't have to ask themselves where the apply button is. And you would also want to display a pop-up, some sort of a pop-up instruction immediately that instructs the user that current VET students can just check the box at the bottom, choose the program they want as their details are already on the VET's applicants database. And that's basically it. You've created your user journey map. You know what the user's emotions are as they interact with the system, and you know how you can improve after you've gotten feedback from your users. The benefits of doing this user journey map is that it highlights how the end users interact with our system in terms of their emotional response, how they structure information, which it goes back to the information design that we discussed a couple of videos ago. It also looks at what their entire experience happens to be as they interact with the system. And last but not least, it creates sort of like a shared vision and a way to communicate between the designer and the user, because the designers would design the system, and then they would get the feedback from the end users, and then by that they both share a common vision, and will, like, at the end of the day, they will create something that will be beneficial to both parties. But like any other tool out there, there are some issues that come with the user journey maps. And one, sometimes they're not so objective because it's hard to get feedback from end users, because it's actually a whole ton of work to actually carry out the entire user journey map, to design it and get feedback from users. It's a very laborious activity. And sometimes it's hard for end users to communicate their emotions. We all know how customers are, or how clients are sometimes, but sometimes they might not be comfortable with sharing how they feel, their actual feelings towards that particular project or that particular product that you're in the process of designing. And that brings us to the end of the user empathy maps and user journey maps. I hope you guys found this video very useful. Please don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video.